Kia ora students, this is the tutorial for how to write a written text introduction. Okay, so it's only 3 sentences, really straightforward. I've got an example here for Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet and also for Wilfred Owen's poem Dulce et Decorum Est. Okay, so context sentence. The first thing you need to do is place your topic in a broader context or a wider picture to show that you understand what you're talking about. And remember, this is after you've put your opening quote. So we've already done that in a different tutorial. We've got our opening quote. Now we need to place this text in the wider world. So my first example there is Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet is perhaps the most famous love story in Western culture. So in a short space of time, I'm telling you a lot of things. Firstly, I'm telling you that Shakespeare wrote it. I'm telling you the title. I'm telling you what kind of story it is. And I'm telling you that it's from Western culture. That's a lot of information in one brief sentence. Here we go with Wilfred Owen's one. Wilfred Owen's poetry provided the British people with invaluable insight into the reality of war. Heaps of information. Author, it's a poem. It's about British people. That's the context of it. You know, Western culture and British people, it's the same kind of information. Invaluable, that means something's incredibly valuable, like you can't even place a value on it. So I'm telling you how important it is. Insight, I'm telling you that Wilfred Owen really knew what he was talking about. And realities of war, I'm telling you the topic of his writing that he wrote about war. So heaps of information in these very short sentences. Right, next slide. Argument sentence. This is where you actually address the question and you tell us what you're actually going to talk about. So for the Romeo and Juliet essay, I'm also talking about setting, just like with the Dulce et Decorum Est one. So the setting of Verona is key to the development of this love story. So that's my argument, that the setting helps develop the love story. In the Dulce et Decorum Est essay, I'm saying setting is vital in Owen's Dulce et Decorum Est as the description of the front line opens civilians' eyes to the lies they were being fed about the glories of war. So that's my argument, that he informed or opened the civilians' eyes, informed them to the lies they were being told about the glories of war. It sounds like a complicated sentence, but actually it's really just explaining the title of the poem, Dulce et Decorum Est, and then the rest of that expression, pro patria mori, that it is sweet and right to die for your country, and Owen is saying, no, it isn't. And he uses setting to do that. Okay, so that's your argument sentence. Finally, sum it up. Drive home the point you intend to argue. The symbolism of settings throughout Romeo and Juliet are fundamental in communicating the doomed story of these two lovers. So I'm really hitting home the argument that telling you what I'm going to talk about in this essay. And for Wilfred Owen, Owen strives to communicate a true and gritty reality in his poetry, and this is one reason why his poetry has stood the test of time. So here where I say true and gritty reality, I'm talking about the setting, and here I'm telling you how valuable his poetry is. His poetry has stood the test of time. His poetry is 100 years old, and yet it is still very much valued today in Western society. So if you put those all together, that's what it looks like. I'm just going to read you the Wilfred Owen introduction. You can pause and read the Romeo and Juliet one if you want to. The perceptive philosopher Plato once espoused that only the dead have seen the end of war. Wilfred Owen's poetry provided the British people with invaluable insight into the realities of war. Setting is vital in Owen's Dulce et Decorum Est, as the description of the front line opens civilians' eyes to the lies they were being fed about the glory of combat. Owen strives to communicate a true and gritty reality in his poetry, and this is one reason why his writing has withstood the test of time. Right, that's it for your introduction PowerPoint and tutorial. So now you need to go and write your own introduction while it's still fresh in your noggin. Remember, if none of that was clear, pause, rewind, fast forward, write down some notes and write down some questions for me.